Well, good evening, everyone. And tonight we're going to talk about Google Photos. Um, Now, before I start the presentation, I wanted to talk to everybody a bit about something. I've taught Google Photos now for many, many, many years, and since it came out. And I also do a lot of tech work with phones and people with their photography and their pictures. So I wanted to just talk before we get into Google Photos about one thing, and that is the number of people that use iPhones in the United States is 45%. So a lot of times when I'm talking to people about Google Photos, half the group, of course, has an iPhone. And so there are, and of course, Google Photos works with iPhone, and it works also on Android phones as well. So you can use it in either situation. But there's three types of people that have iPhones that might use Google Photos, and I want to address that before the presentation. The first type of individual would be somebody who sees Google Photos as an opportunity and likes what it is and wants to move on from their iPhone and their iCloud backup of their Google Photos, and they want to move on and they see the advantages in Google Photos and they will make the switch. There are some that are perfectly happy with the iCloud system and the way iPhones handle photographs, and that's perfectly okay too. That's fine. So there's two groups of people. There's the people that want to switch, and there's the people that want to stay. And either way is fine. The problem is somebody who listens to this presentation and is sort of will load Google Photos onto their iPhone, and they sort of use both systems for a number of months and get very confused. And the philosophy between these two systems is quite different. And so you need to make a decision to use one or the other and not to run both in parallel. So I just make that as a preamble to this. If you think this might be something you want to switch to, great. Listen to the presentation. If you're perfectly happy with the way iCloud handles the pictures and then that's fine. Just listen to the presentation. But please don't sort of sit on the fence, and we'll talk a bit about why that's so and what happens. So let's start the presentation. The presentation is about an hour long, and then we'll about 45 minutes, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. I've certainly I've taught this for many, many years since Google came out. Now, what is different about this is I got to meet 2 weeks ago and talk to the sort of founder of Google Photos, and his name was David Lieb. And I'd never met him before, but I actually got to meet him in a Zoom meeting and ask him questions and talk to him. It was really exciting. And David Lieb is a very interesting person. He holds a master's degree that he got from Stanford, and he got his undergraduate degree in Princeton. And he was sort of a baseball guy, and he played on the baseball team. And while he was at school, this is the roots of Google Photos actually starts with Apple. It actually starts with an Apple product. And this is way back when the iPhone first came on the market. There were lots of people writing apps for iPhone. David, being an electrical engineer, he had a lot of projects on the go, and whenever someone came up to him and he had to take a phone number and he had to put the new phone number in his phone and he had to copy it over, and there was no way to do this in a very efficient way. So he met all these new friends, and he had to actually retype the phone number into his database. So he started to write a software program with a couple of other friends that were into computer programming called Bump, B-U-M-P. Now, I don't know if some of you are old Apple people, you might remember Bump. Anyway, Bump was started, and it was very successful initially. And he soon quit his job as an electrical engineer and left and went to California and started a startup company that was called Bump. And what happened is that all his friends started to say, that's fine that you're doing this this transfer of phone numbers back and forth. But gee whiz, can't we do pictures? We want to share our pictures. We want to do this with pictures. We don't want to do this just with phone numbers. So Bump was included into, included not only phone numbers, but it included pictures. And then, and so that was pretty, and so the software became immensely popular. Maybe you remember Bump, but Google bought Bump for $30 million. And David Lieb went to work for Google Photos, or for Google running, he's the head product lead for Google Photos, and that was called, and he of course is there today, and talked about the philosophy of Google Photos, which I'll expand on in a minute. And so this was the, again, he was the CEO of Bump, and they had over 150 million people using the product when Google bought it. And of course, he became very, very wealthy. So that's David Lieb, really, really bright young man, and quite smart. So what David Lieb said was this. He said that when he, 10 years ago, when he saw the change occurring with digital pictures, he realized that people were taking a huge number of pictures. And the philosophy, and also at that time, Google and Microsoft and Apple all had spent a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, on something called artificial intelligence. And so when David went to work for the company, Google Photos was the first product that Google had that came out that used artificial intelligence to run the programs. So the concept was this, is that you take your pictures and you put them into the big shoebox in the sky called Google Photos. Google Photos then does the artificial intelligence, and it actually labels them, sorts them, and looks after them. There may be some of you tonight that actually have put pictures in file folders. You've labeled them, and you've done a very good job organizing them. That really is not possible anymore because of just the massive numbers of pictures that we take. When we take a picture of a sunset, we don't do one sunset, we take 7 sunsets. So the number of pictures we take is enormous and growing actually every day. And so it is just not possible to label these pictures. It's too time consuming. So Google Photos does an incredible job of sorting these, labeling, sharing them. We'll go through all that tonight, but it's all done without your input. In other words, this is really a lazy person's way of looking after all their pictures, because there's nothing you have to do. Google does it all for you. Now, Google Photos is very account driven. So you will need to use Google Photos. You will need to know what your Google account is. If you have an Android phone, then your Android phone will be running on a Google account. If you have a Gmail account, then you will have a Google account. And it's extremely important when we start this process that you have, you put your photographs in the right account. And if you have multiple Gmail accounts, you have multiple and you may have multiple accounts, then it's important you pick the right account and you make sure that your pictures go into the right spot. Otherwise, it gets very confused and doesn't work very well. Google Photos updates, the app Google Photos updates is updates constantly. I would say that the app is probably changed every 2 weeks. There's over 1 billion users of Google Photos, not million, that's billion, and they upload 2 billion pictures a day. That's not million, that's 2 billion pictures a day to their to the storage. So they are constantly updating this app. This is a very, how will I put it, very productive area of Google. So there's a lot of resource development in this area. And again, the current, this is the current technology, is digital pictures. This is how we take our pictures today. We take it digitally. There is no more film. And if you look at the camera film You saw this here in this picture. You'll see it peaked about 1997, and by the time 2006 came, there were no more pictures taken. And in fact, if you ask young people today what the word Kodak means, no one will know. If you mention Ektachrome or Kodachrome, not a soul will know what you're talking about. And if you mention Kodachrome slides or Ektachrome slides, they'll look at you as though you're swearing at them or something. It's quite different now. Where did my mouse go here? And again, this is the slide. There are 2 billion pictures taken and uploaded on a daily basis. Now, if you go back and you look at our pictures that we've taken in the past, there are many ways in which we used to take pictures. If you look on the top left-hand corner, there's the family album. And indeed, back when when we were very early on, married and had our first child, we had lots of pictures, and of course, we had lots of time to put them in the family album. But as time went on and our second child came along and I became busier and busier, then unfortunately, they all got put into a shoebox. And then we went through the difficult time where we took Kodachrome slides or Ektachrome slides. Some of you probably remember that or still have slides. And these, of course, are problematic and how you want to recover those or show them today in a digital fashion. So that's how we used to do it. Of course, young people now don't. It's all digital. Now, the other thing that's important is how do you store your pictures now digitally? And certainly there are many different ways of storing them. You'll see that you can store them on a CD or DVD. This is something that is, we'll talk about that in a minute. You, of course, have thumb drives here. And of course, you have storing your pictures in the cloud, which is in the bottom here. The bottom right-hand corner is one of the Google underground cities that have all these computers in it. And they are, of course, not in the cloud. When we talk about in the cloud, what we really mean is underground. We're going to talk about DVDs and CDs in a minute, but it is also problematic because Kodak back in 1995, before they left the scene, thought that they would store your pictures for you as well. And they took your pictures and would put them on a CD. The problem is these CDs no longer work because, of course, the software isn't there to read these CDs. Kodak put them into a very proprietary system. And so now it's very problematic if you have your pictures stored on this media here. There's also an issue, and I made a video on this, so you can certainly watch this. For those of you who have pictures stored in albums, there is obviously, you will want to get those somehow into a digital manner, and we can talk about that later. There are many videos that have been made on this. I wanted to do this quickly, so I made a video and showed you how you could do 153 pictures in 13 minutes. So I have the speed record. It may not be the highest quality record, but I have the fastest video online on how to take a photo album and turn all your pictures, or at least 153 pictures, and put them into Google Photos in 13 minutes. And we can talk about that a little bit later. Now, one of the things, we mentioned CDs or DVDs before, and one of the things I wanted to mention to everybody is that this is probably a 20 or 25-year-old technology. The Library of Congress did a big study a few years ago, and what they did is they wanted to look and see how long CDs or DVDs would last, and they started to fail after 20 years. So we now have reached that point. So if you have, and what I would encourage you, if you have stored some of your memories on CDs or DVDs, and they're sitting in your closet, there may be in a nice storage area, these will just start to fail after about 20 years, which is about probably right now. So it's a good time to go back and look at your pictures. If you have some that are sitting there, look at getting them off the off CDs and DVDs. Don't leave them there forever, because they will not stay there. And I would tell you that never before have drives been cheaper. This is a Western Digital drive. It was a deal of the day at Best Buy, and you're going to see it's a 12 terabyte external hard drive for $189. So these things are incredibly cheap now, and so really we can look at certainly moving data off the CDs and DVDs. So what is Google Photos? What is Google Photos? Well, it's a service to help organize and store your photographs. It's not a photo sharing site. I want you to it's not like Facebook. It's not like a lot of people get worried when they want to put their pictures in the cloud. They're worried that everyone's going to see them and they're not going to be private. I want you to think of Google Photos as your own personal, secure site that you can put your pictures, and whatever pictures you want to put there, they're not going to be looked at. David Lieb addressed it because we asked him. Of course, there's a lot of people that feel that when you put your pictures into Google Photos, that Google does something with these and somehow manipulates them or whatever, and that is not true. These are truly your pictures in a very secure area, and Google is not going to exploit those in any particular way. So this is a service where you put your pictures, and if you want to share them and you want to do something, that's okay. But otherwise, they are very private, and it helps people. And it helps people who take a lot of pictures and videos, because again, we don't have time to label all these and try and store them. It works on all devices. It works on basically smartphones, tablets, laptops. It works on Apple. It works on Android. It works on PCs. Google Photos works everywhere, and enjoys the sharing of memories with others. And again, you don't have to work on managing your pictures. Now, again, there are many photo sharing sites. In the past, you probably may have used Picasa. Picasa was actually a Google product. If you did have any Picasa web albums in there, they have now been moved to Google Photos. Flickr is a photo sharing site. It has it's been sold to an individual who owns a company called SmugMug in April of 2018. The business model hasn't gone perfect for them, and I would encourage you, as I have about 7 or 8 years of pictures on Flickr, and I would encourage you to transfer them off of Flickr and put them into Google Photos. And again, Facebook is a photo sharing site. You can actually transfer pictures now from Facebook into Google Photos, but I don't want you to think of Google Photos as something like Facebook. It is quite different. So Google Photos, you can, of course, create albums. You can put pictures in albums. You can share your pictures, which is one of the huge advantages in Google Photos. We can actually share your entire libraries, so we can do that. You can edit your photos, and also you can search. You know, Google is really known for its search capability, and will show you some incredible things you can do with searching. So again, Google Photos is a shoebox. You throw all your pictures into the big shoebox and let it sort it. If you have your pictures all in files and folders and sorted in different ways, you really need to give that up. And we'll talk about how you do that, but you'll just upload them into Google Photos. They're all stored in chronologic order. So basically, they will go into Google Photos and be sorted as per date. But Google Photos is going to learn who you are. Google Photos is going to know who you like. Google Photos will know who your whole family is, who you want your pictures with. It's incredible. It will get to know you better than you and make some incredible suggestions for you. I can assure you on that. Now, this is, again, example of how your pictures will look. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I know what I was going to do. Let me just go back to that. I think there's a, sorry. So let me just go back. There was a video to play with that. We'll go back one more. Yes, now if you look here, if you look at my mouse here as it's going down on the right hand side, it's scrolling down and you will see all the pictures by date. See this one down. This is how they'll all be in by date. They're all in a chronologic order by date. And I'll show you that a little bit later. Now, they're automatically organized by what matters. So they're going to organize this into people, places, or things. And so they will be organized and categorized for you. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Now, who can use Google Photos? As I said, Android users can use it, Apple, iOS, Windows users, Kindle is a bit problematic, and that there are no specific Google products for Kindle, but you can use third-party apps. And of course, in Unix, you can use or Linux, you can use the web-based versions. Now, it's very important that you, as with most programs today, there are two versions of Google Photos, and it's important to know how this works. And of course, there is the web-based, so a web-based version of Google Photos, which is a website. It's a web version. You go to photos.google.com and log in, and all your pictures are there. However, there's also an app on your phone, and this is the Google Photos app. And there are, of course, the app works the best. It is the most functional. However, there are some specific things that the web-based version works the best for, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And again, this is linked to your Google account, and it is pre-installed. If you have an Android phone, Google Photos is pre-installed and turned on your phone. It's very interesting that many times I give this talk at clubs, and people come up afterwards and say, gee whiz, where's my Google Photos? And I show them that. In fact, all their Google Photos have been backed up for the last 2 or 3 years since they had their phone, and they're all online anyway, and they didn't even know that. So Google, if you have an Android phone, Google Photos will be there. It will be turned on by default, and your picture's probably already in the cloud. iOS users, there's a Google Photos app, and again, Windows users, it's a web base. Now, again, it's if you to get to Google Photos through the web base, it's photos.google.com, and you'll just sign in with your Google account. So when you initially sign into your Google account and you want to use Google Photos, it's going to ask you, and this is probably the biggest question I get, it's going to ask you one question when you initially set it up. And it's going to say, how do you want us to store your pictures? Do you want us to store them as a high quality, free, unlimited storage? And if you choose that, it's free. There is no, you can store all the pictures you want that you will ever take in your whole life, and that will be stored as a high quality image in Google Photos. However, to do that, Google Photos does compress it slightly. If you are a photo buff and say there is no way anyone's going to compress or do anything with my picture, you can score it in the original version, and if you click that and you click the button below here, then they will not compress it, and you get to store your picture in the original size. However, with that, you only get 15 gigabytes of storage, and then you will have to purchase storage in addition to the 15 gigabytes. 95% of the people all go with the high quality. That's what I've done. That's what all the photography buffs that I deal with, very few people actually choose the bottom option. Now, here is one of the differences between the philosophy between Google Photos and iCloud backup with the Apple phone, the iPhone. And here's the difference. Apple says to you, we are going to sync all your pictures from your phone to the cloud. And so if you have 10,000 pictures that you've taken, you'll have 10,000 pictures on your phone, and they are synced to the cloud. And so you have 10,000 pictures in the cloud. So whatever is you're storing in the iCloud is also stored on your phone. And it's always the same. We call it synchronizing. Now, the problem with that is, of course, is that the more pictures you take, the more it's going to fill your phone up. And Apple quite likes that because they like to sell you lots of phones. And it's quite common that people will find their hard drives fill up on their iPhone, and they need to go and buy a bigger hard drive for their phone so that they can use that. It is not, all your pictures are not stored in the same, how will I put it? They're not stored in the same format on your iPhone. For example, if you, the newer ones would be stored with sort of full resolution, but if you went to look at a picture that was maybe 5 or 6 years old, it would be a tiny little image on your iPhone, and when you clicked on that, it would then go to the cloud and pull the higher quality image down. But it still is it's synchronized, so it's still, all the pictures will be on your phone that are in the cloud. Now, what the concept of Google Photos is different. Google Photos says, look, we've backed up your pictures to the cloud, and they're safe in the cloud. Do you want us to free up the space on your phone and give you more space? And so that's what Google Photos does. It frees up space, and it will give you messages every couple of weeks. You'll get a notification saying, do you want to free up space? Look, we've backed up your pictures, or you see, if you're down here, you'll see storage almost full, and it'll say, do you want to free up space? And you click on the button, free up space, and it will get you 2 or 3 or 4, whatever gigabytes of data that you have, because it's going to delete the pictures off your phone because they're safely backed up into the cloud. So it's not synchronous. It's not synchronous. It's not the same thing. The pictures on your phone are pictures that haven't been backed up to Google Photos, which is not true with the iPhone. So that's the different philosophies and how that works. Now, once you have your pictures into Google Photos, there's no limits on how you can search them. So, for example, let's say Jan and I went on a fishing trip in 1990. Let's say 1990, Jan and I went to a fishing trip in July. And Jan caught a great big fish. So this is now 2020. I go over to Jan's house in the evening and say, you know, I would really like to see a picture of that fish you caught, you know, when we went. And of course, I'd say to him, when was it that we went? And he, of course, probably wouldn't guess the year. I wouldn't guess the year. We'd ask both our wives and they wouldn't guess the year. So it becomes problematic. Even if you have put it in a file that is the correct year, you probably wouldn't remember it. So with searching, you could search by name, by place, by time, the event. You could say, just mention fish, and it would bring up, you could search fish, and all the pictures of fish in your database would show up. So again, Google searching allows you to search for any way that you want to search it. The sharing of albums is incredible. So if you decide and you wish to share pictures or wish to share albums of pictures, then you can certainly do that. You can also invite people to add pictures to those albums, so you have sort of a common sharing of your pictures. This is often done at weddings, when people would say they have a public album and everyone can put their pictures in that album and you can share them. And this works extremely well. There is also a situation in Google Photos where you can share your entire library. And this comes up particularly in spouses, where you have a husband-wife situation and you're traveling together all the time and you're taking pictures, and maybe you want to put them all and share your entire library. So everything I take would go to my wife and everything she takes would come to me. So you cannot just share individual photos or albums, but you can share your entire album library only with one other person. We have photo editing in Google Photos, so there is pretty advanced editing now in Google Photos, so you can, and again, it's very easy to do, and there's even an auto button, so you can just click the auto button and it will adjust the pictures for you. So it works quite well. Now there is also a software program called Snapseed. This is owned by Google as well. Snapseed is an advanced photo editing software which is free. It's an app for your phone, and you can download this free of charge, and it actually installs into Google Photos, and this gives you Photoshop type editing free of charge, and it's called Snapseed, and it fits into Google Photos. It's available on the iOS or Android as well, and it's free. Now, what happens is that you will probably, when you start out with Google Photos, you will want to upload all your old photos to Google Photos. This can be done very easily. However, I want to draw your attention that this can really only be done, or done efficiently in large numbers, on the web version of Google Photos. So you have to go to photos.google.com. And once you bring the Google Photos up, you will see this. You'll see this little button here called Upload. And when you click on this, it brings up the folders that you have, and you just select the pictures that you want to upload and let her rip. And it will upload your pictures in great volumes and put them all into Google Photos for you. We have also a program called Photoscan. This is what I talk about when I talked about doing that album in 13 minutes, 153 pictures. This is a software program by which it's an app you download. It installs again into Google Photos, and it's a scanning software that you can scan any pictures. If you have physical pictures and you want to put them into Google Photos, you can use this software called Photoscan. So the whole concept of using a flatbed scanner or some sort of scanner to take old pictures and put them into digital format is pretty much gone now. And I would you can do this all with your phone at no cost, and it works very, very well. Now, Google Photos also is amazing. It will choose albums and make albums up for you in a great abundance. It does it quite quickly, and it does it frequently. And they then say, hey, do you want a photo book? And we'll talk about the photo books in a minute, but just to give you an example here, on the left-hand side, you'll see the two cutest little grandchildren of mine in the whole world. There's no two kids that are as cute as these two kids. Now, it's interesting that I didn't make this book up, nor did I choose that picture for the album. Google Photos came, said one day, said to me, "Hey, Ron, what do you think of this album?" And I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, they've got all the cutest pictures of my grandchildren. And so, of course, I quickly bought that album. This is some of the gardening I did in 2017. Again, these were the best of summer 2017. The pictures came out just great. And I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. They just presented this to me. And you have two choices. You have a soft cover, which you can get 20 pages for $10, or you can get the premium hardcover version, and that's $20. And so you have your choice. This service is available in Canada or the United States, and works very well. And particularly, like for this one here, this was our golf cart parade we did at the resort I'm at, and it was. We had a lot of fun, and we won, I think, third prize. So I made these books were $10, and I got everybody one of these books, and went around as Santa Claus and gave it to them on Christmas Eve, and they thought that was a great thing to do. So photo books are great. You can put captions now into photo books. You can label the pictures in there, which is quite easy to do. And also, I wanted to remind everybody that there are, in addition to Google Photos, if you have any devices, particularly televisions, for example, this is the TCL TV in my kitchen, and I run. There's an app on there called PhotoView, and it will run Google Photos pictures on there as a screensaver. Most devices that you have, whether they're Echo shows, they're TVs or whatever you have, they will link into Google Photos, and you can actually use them as screensavers, and it's a lot of fun. Again, I have this one playing continually. I think it's got 456 pictures of my grandchildren, and it runs on the TV, and the kids just love it. And again, this is also a connection to a picture frame I have on my kitchen counter. And again, it's a company called Nixplay. They make a very great picture frame, but again, it connects with Google Photos and allows the pictures to be shown. And so people just add pictures to Google Photos, and it becomes automatically into the picture frame. This is really a cool feature, and the kids just love that as well. Now, as I mentioned to you, I like to talk a little bit about cloud storage. One of the things that you might want to think about, I always like to talk a bit about, is backup of your pictures. If Google Photos uploads your pictures to the cloud, and then it says to you, well, they're safely uploaded to the cloud, we're going to delete them off your phone. So where is your backup? And the answer to that question is you don't really have a backup, because you only have one copy that's in the cloud. I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory on this. If you do have Office 365 and you do pay for that, you do have 1 terabyte of data included in an Office 365, or what they call now Microsoft 365. If you download the Microsoft 365 app on your phone, you could put, it will automatically upload all your pictures that you take into OneDrive, and you'll have up to 1 terabyte of data there. So you would have automatically a second copy on your Microsoft OneDrive. Also Amazon, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you just put the Amazon app on your phone and it will upload an unlimited amount of uncompressed, unlimited pictures as well. It doesn't do videos though. So the 7 new features that were just recently introduced this past year into Google Photos, I'll just briefly go over those. The relationship between Google Drive and Google Photos is an interesting one. Google Photos actually lives on Google Drive. Google Drive is the Google Cloud storage. And it used to be that you could, the files, folders of would be, you could merge them between Google Photos and Google Drive, but that is now a separate item on Google Drive. Yes, it used to be that it was the relationship between the two. If you're a new user, this really doesn't matter. But in the old days that we had, it used to be when you saved your pictures, you could save them to Google Drive and it would automatically go into Google Photos. But this doesn't happen anymore. The other thing that is Google One. For those of you who, this is a new service that they started, and this is called Google One. Now, the nice thing about this is that it is a service that Google offers, and not only does it add storage capability for you in a very cheap rate, but it gives you unlimited access to a Google support person. And this is a very cheap service. It's for $1.99 a month. You would get 100 gigabytes of data and you just be able to store. So if you wanted to purchase more online data, it would occur. And in addition, as well with that, you would get the unlimited support for all Google products, and you'd be able to phone a support person 24/7. These are all US trained people. They're not, it's not a foreign, these are all Google employees that are working within the United States, and their English is impeccable. And if you do subscribe to Google One, then they will be able to back up the original quality into that. It also captures your motion in your photographs. A lot of Geeks on Tour, which is one of the experts on Google Photos, talked about this in in a recent online forum. And Google, as you know, some cameras now, or most cameras actually, when you take a picture, it actually takes a video clip with the picture, and Google Photos will back those up.
Photo.
Live albums is an interesting one. What live albums is you can choose, for example, with my wife and I taking pictures, we've set up live albums for our grandchildren. So no matter who takes pictures, Gail or myself take pictures of our children, grandchildren, they automatically go into an album. It does it by facial recognition. We actually don't have to put them in there. It's actually dynamically, no matter who takes pictures and no matter where those pictures originate from, they automatically go into the grandchild's album, and that's called a live album. And you can choose as many pictures or however you want to do that, but it's done dynamically. I think we've talked about photo frames, and again, these are prints that you can use. It also links into the Google Home Hub. So if you have a Google Home Hub or a Google Nest Hub, as they call them now, you can link your Google Photos directly into that as well. Printing pictures is interesting. And they started a new service, which I'll talk about here. This is interesting. This is a friend of mine, Dave Hull, and he's actually a dentist, and he lives in Fremont, Nebraska. I met Dave about 30 years ago and in Hawaii, and we've been lifelong friends since that. And I've traveled to Nebraska many times and had a lot of visits to his house. This picture was taken probably about 15 years ago, and I decided to, I was going through some of my old photographs, and I thought I would like to send him this picture. This is sort of a cool picture. Now, many of you, if you wanted to send this picture, would take it down to your local place where you've got your pictures printed. You would print the picture off. You then would put it in an envelope. You'd then stand in line at the post office, and then you would mail it to Dave. Dave would then drive down to the post office, pick it up, and take it to his house. So let's look at the way that I did it. And so this is within Google Photos now. And Google Photos has an ordering service now with Walgreens and Walmart. So no matter where you are, if you need, and I did this locally in our, this is not about this picture, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but in Mesa, I would drive up to Walgreens. I would click print in Google Photos. You'd select the pictures you want. I would click print, and by the time I got out of the car and was walking into Walgreens, the pictures were already printing out, and within a couple of minutes, I was out back in the car and off I went. So this is a service now within Google Photos that allows printing in Walmart or Walgreens. So in this particular situation, I wanted to send this picture to my friend Dave from Mesa, Arizona, where I was, to Fremont, Nebraska. Now, what happens is when you choose to print and you choose whatever service you want, it brings up like a Google Maps, and you get to choose. So I went over to Google Maps and I looked at Fremont, Nebraska. There was no Walgreens there, but they had a Walmart Supercenter there. So I thought, okay, I'll have it printed at the Supercenter. So I hit print, and immediately the picture was printed at the Supercenter in Fremont, Nebraska. I got an email back from them about 3 minutes later saying the picture was ready for pickup. So I phoned my buddy Dave, who was at home, and I said, you know, how would you like this great picture of us? And Dave said, gee, that'd be great. I said, well, it's waiting for you at the Supercenter in Walmart in Fremont, Nebraska. Really? He said, how'd you do that? I said, it's just magic. He says, well, it just so happens my wife's at Walmart. He really? And I said, yeah, she's over doing some shopping. I'll phone her and she can pick the picture up. So she picked the picture up, and she opened it and saw it was really a great picture. So she picked a frame up on the way home at Walmart, and she brought it home, and Dave framed it and hung it on the wall. He then took a picture of the picture on the wall and sent it back to me. That whole process took about 45 minutes. So from me having the picture printed in Nebraska to him actually picking it up, to getting it, to putting it on the wall, and sending me the picture of the picture back was less than 45 minutes. So I think that's really an interesting thing now that we can do with Google Photos. The new thing is sorting albums. This is a new feature that's being added, so we now can sort them. And it used to be you couldn't sort them, but that is certainly capable of doing that now. I'm going to stop the presentation there. I think that's about an hour. And I will entertain any questions you might have.
Oh, okay, let me unmute everybody here so they can talk.
Well, it might be better to not, but that's okay. Ron, can you edit the photo books, swap pictures out after it's generated?
Yes.
You can put your own as well.
Yes.
In there.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can change it all around. You can change the pictures. You can change the pages. You can add pictures, take them away. Not a problem. I will tell you though that Google Photos does it so well that it is unlikely. I rarely do I make changes. They are that good. It is really, really amazing how good they are.
It
Ron?
makes me think I should get a digital frame and give it to my mother, who's 85, and I can't see her, and nobody can come visit her because she's in a assisted living situation. And then I should be able to send whatever I want to that device.
I would recommend that you buy a Google Nest Hub. This is a new it's a new product. It's about a 10-inch screen, and it seamlessly would work for her. Plus, you'd be able to talk to her. You could talk to her from an app on your phone, and it would bring up There's a lot more advantages of buying a device. It's about I think it's $299, but it's a lot more than just buying a picture frame. You could do that. You could just buy a picture frame, and you could buy one of them called Nixplay. That's the one I have, and you could do that. But my advice would be to spend a little more money because then you'd be able to talk to her. You could look at her. You can talk to her on your phone. It would also automatically go to the hub, to the Nest, to the device that Google has. So I'd recommend that over just a picture frame. But either would work.
Next Hub.
Yes, it's called the Google Nest,
Nest.
Home Nest. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a 10.1-inch screen. They just came out with it.
Wow.
Does that work with the Google Nest speaker device? The Alexa like to talk to?
Yeah, well now Alexa is made by Amazon, so it's different. Okay, so there's the Amazon group of stuff, and it would work too with that. I mean, it would work fine if you want to go in with the Amazon ecosystem. It would work fine, but they certainly. I have the Echo Show, which also does the same thing, and they have the same products. But if you have Google Photos and you're a Google person, it's easier. I would recommend the other one.
Yeah, I have the show.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Google Nest device, actually.
Yeah.
Which I also have plans to use it for remote control of some devices around the house.
Well, it's a hub, so you can do that as well. Yeah, the new one, the Nest, the Google Nest Hub is the 10.1 it's a hub as well, so you can do that. You can control devices as well.
Okay. Dead silence here. Somebody ask something.
Yeah, when people don't ask questions, you wonder, did they understand? Did I do such a good job presenting that nobody has any questions, or did they not understand anything I said? So it's always a worry. It's always a worry.
It's easy to forget the question you were going to ask at the end because so much other material come in. So in a presentation, it's usually best to have people type their questions into the chat as it comes to mind.
Sure.
And that way you can just go over them at the end of it.
Sure. And of course, we're taping the presentation, so I'll send that back to Jen, and he can certainly, if you have any questions or concerns, you can certainly send them to me. How many people? Yes, Chris.
Oh, Bill?
Or Bill. Sorry, Bill. Bill. I'm sorry, Bill.
Chris is my brother.
Okay.
I have a problem with I have Dropbox, and occasionally my Google Drive will try to back things up from my Dropbox. And of course, I have 2 terabytes on Dropbox, and I have 15 gigabytes on Google Drive. How is that dealt with?
So your Google Photos is not part. If you choose the if you choose the slightly compressed, okay, if you choose the option that's slightly compressed, then it does not count as part of your 15 gigabytes. So you can put as many pictures on Google up into Google Photos as you want, and it's not part of that 15 gigabytes. Okay.
Right.
So it's only if you decide that you want the original quality that it would become part of the 15 gigabytes. And 95% of people don't. It really doesn't make, the only time it would make really any difference is if you wanted to make a picture bigger than 8 by 10. And how many of us have printed a picture bigger than 8 by 10 in the last 50 years, right? I mean, it just doesn't occur. Most of us are only ever watching it on electronic devices like our phones or computer screens, which is really a very low quality image compared to what it is. So you don't need that uncompressed storage. So it should have no effect on that. It's basically unlimited storage.
I guess
Can you give your email again, please?
Sorry?
Can you please give us your email address?
Sure. Do you want me to type it in the chat?
That's probably best.
That's the best way. Everybody cut and paste it, I hope.
I will do that right now. There it is. And if you want, my website is, I will put that on. It's and you'll find all the videos. You'll find all the videos as well there. But I'll be making a specific one for you guys tonight, so you can have it.
Thank you.
And yeah, just a show of hands tonight. How many iPhone users are there in the group tonight? Nobody, really.
I think we have two, George and Bill.
And
George
Sally
too.
didn't show. Sally.
Oh, Sally, yes. We lost her.
Wow, it's very interesting. You know, I've done this presentation to audiences where there's 200 people in the audience, and it's interesting. I'm getting some feedback. It's interesting because in the United States, 45% of the people use iPhones. So it is common in presentations I do that half the audience would be iPhone users, and it is a big. So I always like to do the little preamble at the beginning, because one of the problems that you get into as you understand the philosophical difference between the two systems, iPhone or iCloud believes that all your pictures should be synchronized. So that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's their philosophy. Where Google Photos philosophy is that we are going to take all your pictures off the phone and we're going to put them all into the cloud.
Their time.
So what happens then is, if you're running the two systems together, right? There, you can imagine what's going to happen is if Google Photos says, gee whiz, with your iPhone, do you want us to delete these pictures because they're safely backed up into the cloud, and they delete them off your iPhone, well, your iPhone then is going to think you want them deleted off iCloud, right? Because it's synced. So you get into some really bad situations if you use the products together. So if you are going to use Google Photos on an iPhone, it's important that you turn off iCloud backup. That's really important that you turn that off.
I think you find that people who are by nature tinkerers are not attracted to Apple stuff, because it tends to be sort of slick and packaged and self-contained and not inviting of people poking their fingers in it. You know, also it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able. I've been watching Apple products since 1980 when the Apple II came out.
Yeah.
At any point in history, it was too expensive for me.
Sure. You know, it's expensive. So But anyway, yeah. So I just like to point that out to people. It's important that you don't sort of just run both at the same time and sort of just think it's all going to work out, because it doesn't. It turns out to be a big mess at the end. And I often get people coming and it's trying to resolve the problems.
I'm a PC. My son is a Mac. I still love him, but it's his money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's his money.
Yeah.
I was watching a commercial one day with my wife several years ago, and they were advertising the new phone, and my wife leaned over and goes, "Our phones already do that." And we both busted out laughing. So
My favorite line on that is just that you can tell the Apple owner, because he's got a bus ticket in his back pocket where the BMW keys used to be.
Yeah. So does everyone use Google Photos? Do you have any specific concerns or?
Well, let me say one thing. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I do not, I have a laptop and I don't have Google Photos loaded on it. But some years ago, I bought a tablet, and unknown to me, it had Google Photos.
Right.
So when I got a Gmail account, it automatically included the Google Photos, but I didn't know about it. But there was, as I said, I had a Gmail account. So then I started taking pictures using the camera in the laptop, in the tablet. So I snapped off, a few hundred pictures. They're all stored in the tablet. Then one day I was exploring around my laptop, my tablet. I saw this Google Photos app, and I'd never seen it before. So I opened it up, and there it was, all the pictures I'd taken. Even some pictures that I had deleted because they were not supposed to be shared with people. They were all there. So there were quite a few there that I didn't want other people to look at. So I had to delete those off the Google Photos app. But now at least I'm sure that every time I snap a photo on that tablet, that it is backed up in the cloud. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. Yeah, I just have to be discreet as to what.
Well, they will only be shared if you wanted them to be shared. So there are settings within Google Photos. So if you, as I said to you before, none of your pictures are shared unless you specifically request that they be shared. And so it is not possible if they're all in your personal vault, and it won't. No one can see those.
Okay.
And so unless you specifically say I want them shared, which you must do by default, it's not. And the fact when you started to use Gmail that you saw those pictures is simply it's the same Google account. Your Gmail is the same Google account as your Android tablet, which is the same, which is what your Google Photos goes into. It's all in one. It's all part of your Google account.
I see. Okay, good.
I have a question.
Yes, Bill.
When a photo is taken on either an iPhone or an Android phone, where does the photo go?
So when you
Google, and also on the iPhone, I'm familiar with what happens to photos on the iPhone, but how does Google affect all that?
Well, you say what happens if you take a picture on an iPhone? What would be the difference between Google Photos and Google and iCloud? You want it the same? Is that the question then? Basically, It would do the same thing. They're both the picture would on an iCloud backup would go into the cloud, right? And Google Photos would put it up into the cloud as well. So they would both go into respectively the the storage in the cloud that is part of the system, right? Now, how it is handled once it gets there is fundamentally different. All right, so that's the issue. And you must remember that Apple doesn't like to share. In other words, it's okay if you're in the Apple ecosystem, so it makes it really not that easy to do the same type of sharing that Google Photos does, because Google Photos is Apple, or it's Android, it's anything. So the sharing part of it is much easier with Google Photos. And it would particularly be important if, suppose you had an iPhone, your wife had an Android phone, and maybe your kids had sort of Apple and Android, right? It all gets mixed up. So in that situation, Google Photos is great because you can all share your pictures. You can do all sorts of things with them, and it doesn't matter. If in that situation, if you're using just the iCloud part and sticking with Apple, then it becomes a huge problem because all your Android people can't do anything with it. You see what I'm saying? So that's one of the big advantages in using Google Photos.
Well, when you take a photo with an iPhone, it's immediately downloaded into your Apple Photos.
Right.
Apple doesn't have a file system as we know a file system. It has something, but it's not a file system. So if you have Google Photos app on your phone, how is the Google app going to acquire that picture that goes to the Apple Photos app?
Well, it just links into it. When you install the Google Photos into your iPhone, it will install it. So when you take a picture, it will actually go both places. It'll go into Google Photos, and it will go into your iCloud as well. It probably picks it off the gallery or whatever, wherever the iPhone takes the picture and stores it. Google Photos will take it, and also Apple's system will take it as well. So it will upload in both places.
So then you were warning about deleting photos off of your iPhone. If it goes two places, then if you deleted the photo off of the Google Photos, it wouldn't necessarily impact the photo that was in the Apple Photos.
Well, the problem runs into this is that you have to remember that Apple's philosophy is synchronization. So whatever is on your iCloud is the same pictures that are in your iCloud or on your phone. It's synchronized. It's exactly the same. Google Photos philosophy is not that. Google Photos is, we want to clean your phone off and take all the pictures off there because we stored them in the cloud, right? So what would happen is that, so Google Photos might say to you, gee whiz, on your iPhone, should we delete all these pictures? And you might say, yeah, sure, that's great. Well, when you delete all those pictures off your phone, the iPhone is going to say, for iCloud, it's synchronous, right? So it's going to delete all those pictures in the cloud as well, because it's going to take them out. It's no longer going to be, because you've deleted all these pictures on your phone. It's also going to delete all those pictures in your cloud, so you won't have those pictures. So that's why we want you to turn off iCloud backup if you use Google Photos. We don't want those pictures deleted in the cloud. It's different. It's a different philosophy, right? It's one philosophy, and I'm not saying one's better or worse. It's just a different philosophy, and so that's how it works. And it's important that you know that, because it could be a problem. Now, the other thing that happens quite frequently is people often say to me, is they take pictures of their grandchildren or their new babies, right? They have a new baby in the family. They go to the nursery, they take all these pictures. So the first thing they want to do is they want to go around and show all their friends the pictures of the new baby, right? So they have them on their phone, and they go around and they like to do that. So what the comments are, gee whiz, I don't want those pictures to be deleted, because then I won't have them on my phone. Well, you will be able to see them, but you need to be connected to the internet because you'll have to get them through the cloud. So you'll say, well, gee whiz, I don't want those to be taken off because for the next year, I'm going to go around and show everyone these cute baby pictures. Well, that's easy to do as well. So in Android phones, the apps that you use, in the Microsoft Windows environment, as you know, all your pictures are in a directory called Pictures. Where on an Android phone, pictures are actually stored in multiple directories and multiple folders. So you can actually select certain folders that you want. You can put those pictures in, and you just wouldn't have Google Photos delete those pictures. You could store them in a separate folder and have those pictures on your phone so they wouldn't have to be deleted. So that's an easy thing to do. That's a common question that we get asked. Yes, Jen.
Yeah, I would just mention peripherally that if you've got an Android phone, I've got a Samsung phone, I've had 3 of them over the last 5 years or whatever. If you put an SD card in the phone, the photos you take automatically go onto the SD card and not the storage in the phone. And that is a separate way of actually having them separate. You can pull the card, put it in a reader and stick it in your PC and work with them, that sort of thing. I've been an avid photographer for many, many years. I used to run my own darkroom with a Bessel 45 enlarger and a dichroic color head and all that crap. So, but I don't know if the iPhone does that, but if you stick an SD card into an Android phone, the pictures will automatically go onto that SD card, not the storage, not the phone storage. So, and it's another way you got to back up anyway.
And certainly, if you have Microsoft 365, and if you just happen to, and you're using it now, for sure, get the app and put it on your phone, because you have now with that account 1 terabyte, and the app, the Office 3 or Microsoft 365 app on your phone will automatically back up all your pictures, and that's your second copy, right? It's your second copy. So you could have Google, you'll have them in Google Photos, but they'll also be backed up in OneDrive for your Microsoft. And then if you have Amazon Prime, and a lot of people have Amazon Prime, right? Then you have you get your third backup, because if you put the Amazon Prime app on your phone, then Amazon Prime will take all your pictures, and there's no limit on the storage with Amazon Prime. You can put all your pictures uncompressed, they'll all go into, so you got 3 different places that you could put your pictures, so you have 3 backups, right?
One question. What does 365 cost? I know Amazon Prime is $12.99 a month.
I think 365, I'm not entirely sure. There's different versions of it. I think it's around, for the basic home version, I think it's around $60 a year. But with that, you can split that with 5 users.
Mm-hmm.
Each user gets 1 terabyte of storage. So it's cheap. It's cheap.
That is very cheap. Now, what else would I need other than Amazon.Prime and then 365? Would that cover me to do photos and files and whatnot?
Well, the Google Photos will do it all for you. You don't need those 2. You could do what Jan says for backing up. It's just the issue. You have to think about. You should always have a second or maybe third copy of your photographs. It's
Right.
not good enough just to have 1 copy. And that is a philosophy of Google Photos, is they want to really take your pictures off your phone, so you don't have, they're not all plugged up with, your phone, your whole hard drive isn't full of these pictures, right? So what they want to do is they want to free up stuff, and they safely take your pictures and put them in the cloud. But that means you only have 1 copy, right? And
Right.
so that's not a good thing. So you
No.
could do like Dan says, you could take them on an SD card, and you could then put them onto your computer, right? And you could do that. Or if you wanted to do the Office 365 or Microsoft 365, you could do that. You could do it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do something and you have multiple copies.
Good. Thank you. You done good.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, excellent
Very good, Tom.
presentation.
Good. Well, please use it. And if you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them.
I'm having some an interesting application with Google Drive. I use it to eliminate a fax machine. I have an apartment complex about 180 miles away, and we had a fax machine out there, and Ma Bell was charging us. It got up to like $200 a month for a business landline, just for that fax machine. So what I did is I got her a multifunction fax printer gadget that had the ability to upload to a Google Drive account from the scan. And so I started up a Google Drive account just for that. It's the free size, you know, it's like 15 gigs or something. I don't know. Small by today's standards, but you know, just endless faxing for what I needed for. So she you know, she does that scan. I had to buy a second one of those multifunction machines so I could figure out how to set it up on the little buttons, okay, and tell her over the phone, okay, do this, do that, do that. Yeah, she just shoves the paper in, presses the button, it shows up in my Google Drive account. I have a script on my Linux server that sucks it down into that, and it's available via Samba to my PC. So basically, she shoves a piece of paper in, and it shows up on my PC, maybe a minute later.
Right. So one of the things that is interesting is have you heard of widgets? Has everybody heard of widgets? Widgets are on your Android phone, and they're like macros, all right? And there are all sorts of widgets. And I have a number of videos out on particularly widgets with receipts or stuff like that. And what happens is with your phone, all phones now are high resolution. They take really good pictures. And in fact, one of the ways in which I did the photo albums to get stuff into Google Photos is I simply took a picture with my phone. In other words, you don't even have to scan them. You can just take a picture, just to take a photograph of a photograph, and it will immediately put it into Google Photos. Now, I've written I've done a number of videos on receipts, and what you can do is you can actually, Google Drive has an app on your phone, and you can, if you go to widgets, there's widgets for Google Drive, and this creates a button that you put on your phone, and you can have a button for each folder that you want on Drive. So for example, if I have a medical receipt and I want to sort of put that receipt in Google Drive, I just aim my phone over the receipt, push the button, and it automatically goes to Google Drive. That's all I do. I just push the button, it takes a picture, and it goes right in the right folder in Google Drive. And you can have a button for each folder that you want to put it in. So to fax something and take it and have it go into Google Drive, you could do that, but it's so much easier with a phone. Just take a picture of it and it'll go right into Google Drive. And so the whole, yeah, it works really, really well. And if you send me an email, you've got my email address, I'll send you the link to the video and you can watch it. I have a number of them out. One of them is on receipts and how to manage receipts. And that's one of the easiest ways. And that's what one of the ways that I manage them is I'm out and around, or if I want to send something to someone, I just hit the button. I have a bunch of these buttons on my phone, and I just click it, and it takes a picture and automatically puts it into Google Drive for me. So you don't need a fax machine, just use your phone.
That's clever.
Yeah, it is.
I have a question. I have a Magic Jack, so I can't fax things through Magic Jack. Now, if I had a cell phone, would I be able to fax things using the cell phone?
Take a picture of it. Just take a picture of it and send it to someone, because that's all. The picture would be the same as a fax. It's going to give you the same resolution, and just take a picture of it.
No, it'd give you better resolution.
It would, yes, yes.
Fax is horrible. I
Yeah.
hate fax.
It'd be,
Much better.
it'd give you a very good
expensive.
resolution.
It's low resolution. It's slow. It's everything bad.
So it would certainly do that, and yes, and I would encourage, yes, for sure, and even now, you know, in the old days we used to have flatbed scanners, and if you wanted to take an old photograph and put it into a digital media, you know, you'd put it in the scanner, you'd hit the button, you'd wait, and then it would go and go brr, 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 and it would scan it, and then it would go through some software, and then boom, you'd have your digital picture, right? And if you had 1,000 photographs to do, that'd take you a long time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But now all you have to do is just take a picture of it. Just take a digital picture of the picture, and it's better than a scanner, and it works really fast.
Terrific. Thank you.
And
So
if
yeah,
you see a sign, or you see something on television, or some other place, a poster or whatever, and you want that information, but you don't want to spend the time writing it all down or typing it in, all you got to do is take a picture. And then if you have Text Fairy or some other OCR app in your phone, it will actually convert it to text. And then you can correct the spelling on it. You could cut and paste parts of it, send it, put it in a message, do whatever you want, as if you had typed it yourself in the beginning.
Now that app is called Textberry.
Fairy.
What?
Fairy.
So what happens in Google Drive, if you do what Jerry was, you know, if you did what I said about Jerry, and you just take the picture and you upload it to Google Drive, when you go to open that document, it will ask you what you want it opened in. And if you say you want it opened in Google Docs, it automatically OCRs it for you. So it'll automatically come up as an OCR'd image.
Oh, thank you.
Try that one.
Yeah, it automatically does that for you. So yeah, that it's all done. It's all done. Yeah, works really well.
Ron, I sent a message to you in chat about what program you use to adjust photos.
You know, I use well, I teach Snapseed, and of course Google Photos will do the adjustment for you. I have a Pixel phone, and my Pixel 3 really is so good. Honestly, I don't adjust pictures very much. And I'm not going to say the Pixel is so great. I think all cameras are really good now. I'm not sure how much adjusting you really want. Occasionally you might want to crop something, but that's all. You can do all that within Google Photos. But if you want really advanced features in editing, where you can do some really more sophisticated stuff, then Snapseed it's like Google, it's like Photoshop. You know, it's an Android app that's owned by Google, and you can install that on your phone, and you can use Snapseed.
Yeah, the main issue is turning a I don't know, a trapezoid into a rectangle.
Oh yeah, Google Photos does all that for you. In fact, it'll sort of know what you want and do it for you. It does. You don't even have to think about it. It'll figure that out for you.
What does OCP stand for?
It's OCR, and it stands for Optical Character Recognition.
Thank you.
The other thing that sometimes I get asked about is, since all your pictures are stored by date they were taken, what happens if you scan an image and put it into Google Photos? In other words, suppose I took a picture that was 1920 and I scanned it today and I put it into Google Photos, the date of the scan would be today's date, right? It wouldn't be 1920. So how does that, it would be out of sequence, right? So how do you do that? Well, you can change the date of the photograph when it's in Google Photos. And so you'd put the proper date, which would be 1920, and then it would just go to the right section then. So you can adjust the dates.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And then the one of the coolest features is recently it's an app. It's not on the web, so I don't have my phone with me, so I can't show it to you. But they just brought out a feature this past couple of weeks, and what happens is within the Google Photo app is Google Maps, and all your pictures are on Google Maps. So and that's one of the reasons why you shouldn't turn off geolocating. So what happens is that if you are driving through a community and you're using Google Maps, you'll see a little pin on there. And when you click on that, it shows you the pictures that were taken in that location. And it's really quite amazing. It really, so now you can look at a map of wherever you want, and all your pictures are on the locations right on the map where you took them.
Slick.
That is really slick. It's a lot of fun, particularly 20-year-old, 30-year-old pictures. Well, they have to be digital. So let's say 15 years ago you were driving through Fremont, Nebraska, and you think, oh gee, have I been here before? And you look there, and all your pictures are there. You just click on the button, and all your pictures are based on the location because you were there.
Mm-hmm.
I always, when I go to a hotel, I always take a picture of the hotel and take a picture of the room number. If I like the room, I always take a picture of the room number. And so now if I'm driving back through that community, all I have to do is when I went through that town, it would show me that I've taken a picture in that town before, and I'd click on that, and I'd not only see the hotel I stayed at, but I'd have the room.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea. Good idea.
I was once in a town far away, walking around with my cell phone, and there was a little cafe across the street, and all of a sudden a window popped up on my cell phone with reviews of that little cafe,
Oh,
and it looked pretty good. So I went in and had lunch. The cell phone knew where I was and knew where I was going.
huh.
Bam.
Yes, for sure.
Google has started sending me emails once a month or so saying where I've been in the past month. These days, it's not much.
That's called your timeline.
Yeah, it's a little creepy, honestly.
It is. Well, it's sort of
Everybody's
cool. I think
watching
it's
you.
really cool. I mean, I got mine yesterday, and it's interesting. I mean, it shows you where you've been. I mean, it's particularly good if you run some sort of contracting business and you want to keep tabs on your mileage and stuff like that. It's great.
Oh, on your workers' mileage.
Yeah. Yep. It's sort of cool. So
I think sometimes Google knows too much about where I've been going.
Turn off location services. It'll take care of that.
Well, I was
but it
told
won't
that
pop
the
up
best way to
reviews
avoid that
in
is just to turn
restaurants.
off my tablet.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, Ron, I really thank you for coming here to say it. And the presentation was great. I picked up an
Yes,
Excellent.
great.
great. Good. Well, have me back. If you Tech for Senior, go to the website, and it's got all my latest presentations. There will be and hopefully we'll see everybody maybe next week at the APCUG conference. I'll be doing a presentation there on my new one, Saving Your Life with Wearable Technology, and I'll be doing part 2. I don't know if you saw did you guys see part 1?
Mm-mm. I saw it advertised.
Yeah, you should have me back, and I can do part one, and then I'll do part two. It's a good presentation. And also Huey Poplock who is a friend of mine, and I do Tech for Seniors, which is a show once a week, and we do that on Mondays at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's a Zoom meeting, and we have a lot of fun, and we do that for an hour every Monday. And again, if you go to, I think I put that in the chat notes there, Tech for Senior. If you want to go to that website, it'll tell you all about it, and it'll give you the Zoom. There's no fee, there's no charge, and you can come and have some fun with us on Monday morning. So there's we do that, and that's a lot of fun as well.